Sweet. Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. So yeah, I think we can probably start. So I'll just start with, like just introducing and giving a little bit of background on how I met Shunyao. I joined this entrepreneurial community called On Deck, and we have this community channel where everyone posts about, like their story and kind of like why they're in that community. And I think I posted something and Shunya also posted something, and we really resonated with each other because both of us are immigrant and we both care about the struggles the immigrants go through. Shunya is originally from China and lived in the US for 8 years. She finished her PhD in electrical engineering from UC Santa Barbara, then moved to UX, and then went to product management in Google. But I'll just I just found her story very inspiring. I just thought that I wanted to learn more about her, and then I thought that why don't I do it in front of some other people? So that's why Shumia, like, thanks a lot for making the time for coming with us, and welcome here.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. And hi, everyone. Really nice to see you all. So yeah, Sam already kind of introduced a little bit of my background. I think basically grew up in China, came here in 2013. And I think one thing that I constantly do throughout my career is like I have done a lot of career pivots in my life. And I kind of know the pain of if you don't like something, but you have to do it, especially like 40 hours a week. And that's like really painful. And also like your priority shifts as you grow up. So how do you just like rebalance your priority and trying to find your new direction, and how do you like take action towards it? So for today, I think I want to first, I'm just going to cover off like my own story, the kind of like pivots that I've done in the past. And also I kind of want to pick one particular angle there and talk a little bit about how do you find the right thing if you don't like your current thing, and then how do you take actions towards it. Let me just quickly share my screen. And so this will be very informal. I have some slides, but this will probably just only going to take like half an hour-ish. And then I'll open the floor. And if you have any questions, happy to answer them. Yeah, so it all started, I grew up in China. Is like a kind of, if you know about the Chinese culture, it's still kind of like you listen a lot about what your parents say, what your teacher told you. At some point, someone told me this will be a good job for you. So I just like picked the major in the college, and without knowing anything about it, I just picked the direction of my life. So I was supposed to be this thing called video compression researcher. So video compression, if you don't know what that is essentially compressing videos like to a smaller size without losing too much of the quality. So think of it as like, how can you make YouTube load faster without sacrificing quality? So in my undergrad, I was in electronic engineering. So kind of doing all those like those fancy equipment that I don't even remember how to use it anymore. And then I went to grad school. So this is kind of like pretty academia, writing a lot of papers. And, again, like for videos, I'm kind of like figuring out what are the moving parts in the videos? How can we compress them? What are the redundancies? Things like that. And then typically my supposed job would be, I can either go to industry and doing all those like video compression thing, and the video is really hot right now. You can go to YouTube, TikTok, all those kind of like video first platforms now. And typically, most of my peers who are in the same lab as me are working on this whole thing called AV1, which is like a standard thing. So if you compare the quality of on the left side and the quality of the right side, you can see the quality differences. So that's where I was supposed to be. But a couple years into my grad school, and I also did a couple internships related in this field. And I started to realize that well, number one, I just don't really want to do it. I and also I'm just also not super good at it. I mean, I'm okay with it, I think, but like there are so many other people who are really good at what they're doing, and they're also enjoy this a lot better than I do. Similarly with engineering, so a lot of those are coding, writing C, C++, Java. So I also don't really like debugging. Took me a long time to admit that, but I think that's where I landed eventually. And then I wanted to be a UX designer at one point. UX stands for user experience, usually talks about UIs. How does the user flow when person clicks one thing here and then something else show up, and then like basically the whole flow when you're using a product. I will go a little bit deeper on the UX part later. But yeah, so I started to go to all those UX conferences, and I started to write this design blog, just like, documenting little things in the life. And spent the summer at Google doing this thing called UX Engineer Internship. Essentially what I did is, on Android, there are all those like launcher UI. It's called system UI. So basically there are all kinds of different variations about how can we make the system UI look better. And then after that summer, it was really fun. But I realized, like, even though it was fun to do the design, I still want to understand how the decisions are made, what kind of users are we targeting, what problems are we solving, all those like really high level conversations. So I heard about this product management thing, and I thought that was more aligned with what I want. So I spent summer also at Google, so for Chrome OS, trying to do something relevant to the AR. It's like Chromebooks, you like the ones that you use in school. So basically I spent summer working on Chrome OS, and I really, really, really liked the summer. And I came back to Google as a full-time APM and started working on Google Lens, which is a camera product that if you point your camera at the flower, it kind of tells you what kind of flower it is. So like a visual search product. Also work on a product called Camera Go, which is a camera app for low-end Android phones, specifically on emerging markets. So those are kind of like phones of like $100 price point. Also work on a product called Kormo. So this is actually available in Bangladesh. So it's a job marketplace for entry-level jobs. And we kind of basically put together a marketplace for people to find jobs. And then I spent, after 3 years at Google, now I'm kind of starting something new. So one thing is called Communicate at Work, which is like a boot camp for workplace communication, specifically designed for non-native English speakers. And then this other thing that I'm doing called Jobs in a Sandbox, but essentially helping people to experience different new roles in a sandboxed environment so that you get a sense of what it's like. And also, those are also good experiments for you to practice like specific skills. Okay, so that was like very like long-winded introduction of what I did. So when we talk about career pivots, I think there are a lot of people who are around me also don't like their job. But the most common question that I got was, if I don't do this, what else can I do? And that's a really solid question, because when I realized that I don't want to do video compression, I don't want to do software engineering, I also don't know what I should do. I think there are two things. So actually, from this point, I think I want to use specifically the pivot from engineering to UX as an example of how I did this, because that particular pivot was really the hardest thing across all kinds of pivots. So there are two things that really, really kind of changed my direction. One thing is this book called Design Your Life. It's a really solid book, highly recommended. But essentially what it does is, actually, before we even talk about this, Design your life, the whole idea is to try to use design thinking to design your life. And when I say design thinking, it usually means iterations. So it's not like one day you hate your job and the other day you suddenly know what you want. So it's more of an iterative process. But essentially, the steps here are, number one, you kind of observe your life, your day-to-day life, and kind of notice what kind of activities boost your energy. Maybe you hate social lives, you like doing math, or you really like music, or you really like the gaming part with your friends, or you really like going out for a walk. So just like notice the little things and just like track your energy level and try to identify those activities that boost your energy. Number two is try to find a pattern out of those activities. I will give a concrete example later. But like, sure, like playing video games can boost your energy maybe, but doing board games can also boost your energy. So what's the pattern between all the things that can boost your energy, and try to find the common elements, like what are the things that actually make you happy. So is it about the problem solving, puzzle solving? Is it about like, influence? Is it about just like being together with friends? Like what is the actual thing here that makes the difference? And then the third step is how to design the life around this pattern. So if your pattern is I want to be with my friends, then like how can you design your maybe a career around this pattern? Maybe you can be an organizer. Maybe you can be a community builder. Maybe you can just like put all those put the elements that you like into the job, your like the most ideal job. And the fourth step is design small experiments to experiment that thing. So instead of starting with applying for a job as a community organizer, maybe you can start organizing board game events for your friends, or starting like a Facebook community like what CM did. So like starting with small things to prototype and actually see if you like that kind of thing. So for me, what boosts my energy, music, puzzle solving, planning, social games. And what I did here is I actually have like, music here, so planning here, puzzle solving here, and social games here, and try to just like think broadly what music means: performing, recording, improvisation, singer, whatever. So just like you kind of just like think broadly about around the concept that makes you happy, and you do the same for all four of them. And then you I don't know if you can read this, but there are a couple ones that I highlighted. So those are the common things that I find throughout the activities that boost my knowledge, boost my energy. So the pattern here is influence, imagination, emotions, and organized things. And then how can I design my life around with all those elements? So I was thinking about teaching or sharing, or being a designer or being a planner, like even product management is kind of falls into this pattern. And how can I design small things to test it? So I can design some games, I can write blogs, I can organize events, things that kind of put you on a track that can just like, test out how you actually feel doing these things. Like, is there a potential for that to extend to a career? So the second thing that was really changed my life is this Coursera course called Design Principle Introduction. And the reason I started this is because I did this exercise and I was like, okay, game design or all kinds of design, I can start learning about these things. So I came across this course, and then I wrote down this the night after I took this course. So like, it's like I was hit by something. So there are a couple concepts that they mentioned in the course. There's like mental model, representation, offload working memory, and all those things that they talk about in the course are literally the things that I think about every day. And I didn't, at the time, I didn't even know there was a term called user experience. But after that, I was like, oh, there's actually a career designed just for this. And I was just like, at that point, I was like, okay, so I want to be a UX designer. So now the next question, very typical question that people ask is, okay, I know I want to be something, or I know roughly I want to go into this direction, but I don't have any background. How can I get a job? Well, step one, obviously learn. You don't have to go to a different school, but there's so many online learning, Coursera, Khan Academy, LinkedIn Learning, bootcamps, workshops. For me, I took all the courses that I can take on Coursera. I also got a certification, and to be honest, it wasn't that useful, but I basically learned everything that I could. Practice. Okay, this is, ignore that. So one thing that I did is like design block that I mentioned. So I was like, well, I need to like showcase that this is something that I'm interested in. So I started a blog kind of every day. There's something, for example, this one I was like really kind of, I forgot what this is about, but something about laundry that I was frustrated with. And I was like, how can I make this better? So wrote a blog about it. Also, I did a lot of personal projects. So this is a redesign in the bookmark system in web browser. So this was a very long time ago. So please bear with the whole concept. But anyway, so I was always frustrated with, I have like a million tab open in Chrome. So how can I make the web, the bookmark, wait, is it bookmark? Yeah. So how can I make the bookmark experience better? So I did some little sketches. I kind of listed some design thinking that I had here. And I also try to send it to people that I know to ask for some feedback. Another example is this is a student competition that a conference had. But essentially, they just have a prompt. I think the prompt was something about assistive system. How can you design something that's helping like people who have hearing disabilities or something like that? So I found someone to do this together and try to. This is like the final poster that we did. So I think long story short is practice is actually pretty hard because you have to be proactive. So one thing you can do is try to do a lot of personal project. And the other thing is like try to find all those different competition hackathons, different opportunities that can help you practice these kind of things. And also when I say I'm doing like jobs in a sandbox, it's also kind of for this. How can we have sandboxed experience for you to practice together and get feedback? Networking. So this is really hard. And the reason I say I want to pick this particular transition from engineer to UX is because in UC Santa Barbara, there wasn't a design department. And with my friends, I don't really have any close friends who are like a UX designer. And I just like couldn't really get any help, and I was just like not really in a group with UX designers. A couple of things that I did, meetup. So this was called a book club back then, but something to get you connected with the local group. So communities, this is where I found my teammate for that student design competition that I mentioned earlier. And then conferences. So these are the two conferences that I went to. Like one is like with driving distance, and the other is in Seattle. Basically, I just go there and be like, hey, I need an internship. So at the end of the day, this is like part of the agenda for Convey UX. And this particular session with Greg. So he was from Google, And after this call, I went to him and be like, hey, like, had this experience, had engineering experience, but also really, really interested in UX. Can you help me? And he basically gave me a job. Like he referred me to someone else that in his team who is hiring for a UX engineer intern. And that's how I got into Google for that internship. So those are actually everything that I had. It went a lot faster than I thought. But anything, so those just like a snapshots of like some of the pivots, like the things that I did when I tried to do the pivot. Like I can talk about, if you have any questions, you can ask me anything about like all the career pivots I did in the past. I also have like spent a lot of time at Google on 3 different roles: software engineer, UX engineer, and also product management. I can also answer any question around Google. So just like now I can open the floor if you have any questions or comments.
Hey, yeah, thank you, Shunyao, for this presentation. And I always think that for networking, like meetups and like these things always are like great because you can meet a lot of like people. So maybe we can open the floor as you said. So probably we can stop sharing the screen and then we can see everyone. Sweet. I think Anmol has a question. Anmol, do you wanna go for it? If you want, you can unmute and ask the question directly.
Yeah, hi Sunil, how are you doing? It's nice to have you here in the meeting. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, I always think product management as a role is very like a high level work which needs more experience. And since I am like an entry level, like I just graduated from university, I just want to know like how did you make a transition from a UX designer or a UX engineer to be a product management, product manager, and like what are the essentials that are needed to be a better product management professional?
Yeah,
Thank
totally.
you.
Yeah, totally. So the question is, how do you make a transition to product management, and what are the skills? So yeah, so first of all, I think product management is a little different from managers because PMs only manage product, as in you define what products, what problem to solve, and how do you what are the features in the product, versus managers are managing people. So for managers, you need lots of years of experience, and they actually need to have like very solid experience. But for PM, it's actually more about product sense. So can you understand user problem, like let's say Gmail, like there are tons of problems with Gmail. Like Gmail has lots of competitors. Gmail is like the product in the past decade. So within all those problems, which one are you going to prioritize? And then if you prioritize that, how will you solve it? What kind of features are you going to design to solve that? So these are not necessarily need experience. I mean, experience is great, but like someone who's out of college can do that as well. And in fact, there is lots of programs called like APM programs, like associate product managers. That's typically for new grads. So yes, new grads definitely possible for PMs. And for skills, so typically when you do the interviews, there are 3 types of interview questions that they will ask you. One is what I said, like product sense. Essentially, like, can you understand user problems? Can you think of things from the perspective of users and think about the user journeys and think about the pain points and come up with a solid solution to address the pain point? Second is about analytical sense. So that typically in the form of how would you measure your solution? What's the success metrics? How do you know that your solution solves the problem? There's also some estimation questions also fall into the same bucket, as in, can you give a rough estimation of how many t-shirts are sold in America? So basically like analytical, how can you break down a huge vague question into like small steps? The third typical question that people ask is essentially business strategy, as in like, again, as Gmail, what's our strategy to increase revenue? Like, should we open a different market? Should we like focus on enterprise? Should we focus on startups? Like, should you acquire this new like rising email product? So basically, like, can you think of the product from a business perspective? What's your business goal out of it?
Yep, that makes sense completely, and thank you very much. And I just want to have like a follow-up question on that. So it's like, let's say you said example Gmail, there is a problem. Let's say user find it, and I am like a developer, software developer, looking for a job. But what my question is like, there are problems in to be fixed, and product management have the they know what they need to be fixed. And how does that transition between product management and developing teams happen in the pipeline? Like if you can clarify, like, if there is a feature that need to be updated in a Gmail, how does the product management have a transition to the development?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically PMs don't write code. And so usually there's the most important counterpart of PM is the eng lead or tech lead, whatever you call this. And tech lead has like a team of engineers that they can allocate. So essentially as PM, you really need to get alignment with your tech lead and tell them that this is the priority, here's the goal, here's why, here's the feature, we need 5 engineers for a quarter to do this, and then we're gonna measure X, Y, and Z. So, and the eng lead might say, oh no, like we don't have 5 engineers for a quarter, we only have 4 for something else. So like basically it's kind of like alignment process.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Great. Anyone else wants to?
Yeah, I had a quick question. So since you like bumped around with like different aspects of your careers, you had like different experiences. What experiences or skills do you think are the most transferable to, say, like any kind of jobs or career paths?
I think I'm biased when I say this, but I would say communication. I'm also obsessed with communication. So I think communication is important in the sense that there is very rarely you're going to work something on your own, even as engineers, right? You always have a team, you always have your managers, you always have lots of things to need help from others. And a very typical thing that I see in my work, especially at Google, is that engineers who are really good at communication and really good at like, speaking different language to, or tailor your message to your audience, has a better career path than those who don't. And also just like, even if you're doing something else as like taking different roles, so you always, again, have to work with people. So I'll say that's something that's transferable no matter what.
Follow up, are there any technical skills, not the soft skills, that say like one should absolutely learn?
Technical skills that one should absolutely learn. Personally, I think just like understanding, have a basic understanding of how like tech infrastructure work is always going to be helpful. As a So the way is helpful is that you know what is possible and what is not. So like, for example, you know what is possible with ML and what is not possible with ML. Or can't find another example, but essentially like, so that even if you're not in a technical role, you still wouldn't really make, you can still like make like not too crazy suggestions.
Okay, that makes sense. Because like there are customers that make like demands that are not possible. So as someone who is say in the field but not really related to another team, you should know what another team is about, kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's actually a good, interesting question on the technical skill side. Yeah, I agree with Shunyao that yeah, like it's essentially like any kind of technology stack. It doesn't matter from which industry it's coming from, but understanding the fundamentals of that stack is very important, like design level of that technology, because without that, we won't know what's useful or not. It's not exactly like a skill per se, but it's more like I think like the architecture of it or the design, like how does blockchain work? If we don't know how it works, yeah, so a very interesting point. But yeah, I think we can go to the next question. Mansoor, you had your hands raised. You have your physical hand raised as well, which is, you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad tick of mine. I scratch my head if I'm nervous. Sorry. So hi. I just wanted to ask. I'm located a bit like in a place that's a bit remote. Like not a lot of people know about my area. So, but it's a good institution, but it's a bit, remotely located and everything. Like people from my institution go to Amazon and everything, but but these are like, US citizens and everything. So as a foreigner who is, looking to, go into US industries, but is, placed in like a bit remote of an area, how do you suggest, creating, a portfolio or, a network such that it's easier for you to enter these markets?
Let me ask a clarifying question here. So what is your biggest concern as like being in a remote institution?
Um, what I usually find is a bit difficult is, telling people, okay, so where am I actually from? What is like a lot of time, just a lot of time that I get to, I mean, talk to people is just explaining to them, like this area exists. Like people just a lot of there's a lot of dismissal around sometimes that of where I am currently placed in. So it just gets dismissed or sometimes, but due to it being remote and stuff. So how do you think I can break through that mold, you can say, to make it a bit more easier for me to be more, I guess, approachable, even though I'm a bit more remotely located?
Just want to clarify. So you're saying when you say remotely located, so are you worried about that maybe your school doesn't have a huge reputation, that people don't hear about it? Or are you worried about, is that the concern?
I mean, it's a bit like a bit new of an institution. It's like started around 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
So I mean, it went through a rebranding and everything.
Got it.
like 5-6 years ago. So it's still taking time to, you know, get the name out,
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, got it. So basically when I look at resume, so first of all, I'm not a recruiter. So recruiters do have like a couple schools that they typically go into to recruit, right? But doesn't mean that people from other schools won't get opportunity. But when a resume come to me, I don't look at the schools. I probably look at a major to see if it's relevant, but I don't look at the schools. And even for me, UC Santa Barbara is not really the top school. What I look at is your experience. In which case, if you're in school, what kind of school projects you've done? What courses have you taken? Do you show, like if you are applying for software engineer, do you have like GitHub experience or like past project that will probably be relevant to what our team is doing? So I think it's like less about the reputation. I think reputation do matter in schools, sorry, in recruiters, but for actual hiring managers, all about can you do this work or not?
Yeah, great point, and actually very much agree with Shunyao on this one. I was just typing, but then I thought that I can just say in audio. So yeah, like this is a common concern. I feel like for like fresh graduates, it's difficult to understand this, but yeah, like instead of focusing, obviously, like if you are graduating from Harvard or MIT or any of the top major Ivy League schools, there will be less friction, but for most of the schools in US, they do not matter. And like also over time, I think the whole industry is shifting less towards the school-based branding and more towards like project-based. Like, have you done projects? How many team members were those? And some kind of like growth projectiles that, oh, like this is how you learned, this is what you have done. So instead of worrying about, for example, Mansoor, I know which institution you're coming from. So you can say that you're coming from Texas and then immediately go to the projects you have done. And that's it. Like, I don't think that you have to worry about, like that thing. But yeah, very interesting questions. I think we have 2 hands raised.
Yeah, and can I just add a quick point here?
Please,
So
please.
also, after you have worked for like 2-3 years, people don't know, don't ask you which school you're from anymore. So just like it gets old really quickly.
Yeah, 100%. So I think there are 2 questions raised. I don't know who raised earlier, but I can pass first maybe L Crawley, and then I'll pass it to Deepu. So L Crawley, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yeah, you have me. How are you guys doing? You
Good,
guys
how are
are
you?
really thinking. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I mean, for the most part, you guys did both touch on schools being important, but in the same sense, if you didn't come from, big schools, big programs, you have some people, they didn't go to college. You have some people that might have done like a school that specialized in product management that also did like, customer success and other technology. And that's a similar type of regiment or program because the work is rigorous, because you're learning hands-on, you're pretty much in a cohort and that kind of thing. And when you're in these interviews, that is your superpower, you being able to discuss, the terms and how you know how to do something versus the schooling. Because I could go to these schools, but if I still can't explain to you the process, then I mean, the school is important, but it's still not going to really help. It's just using that wherever you're coming from as your superpower, but not as something that you feel like is going to dismiss you because I went to little school on the hill versus you went to Harvard. Just know in yourself, just keep conditioning your mind and just, keep learning, whether you do it at edX or if you do it at a smaller institution, a community college or certificate, all of that stuff is relative. Just be able to show those employers and hiring recruiters, managers, by how you communicate that you know what you're talking about and that you're coachable. let me see, you have a curiosity for learning. It's just those things are your superpowers, because the world would be so just boring if everybody sound the same, look the same, and did everything the same. You guys are all superheroes, and there's a place for all of you. And that's it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Thanks for jumping into the call and this inspiring message. Awesome. So I think Deepu, you had your hand raised. Do you want to go? And then maybe Bikram had something, but Deepu, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Shunyao. How are you? So I'm Deepu. So I'm basically from Bangladesh, and I have experienced something I would say similar like you. So I have changed my careers quite a few times. So basically, I did my bachelor's in finance and accounting, and then I was doing my MBA. Then I came here in the US and completed my data science, a master's in data science. So, and right now I'm also learning full stack development as well. So I was wondering, what, in your experience, what are the challenges when you switch your career or decide to switch career, and how do you decide that which career is the ideal for you? So just want to hear your real life experience, how you felt and how you experienced the everything. Yeah.
So the question is, how do you decide what is the ideal experience?
Basically, what are the challenges when you switch your career?
What are the challenges switching careers? So in this case, I imagine you already have something in mind to switch to. Okay. So challenges to switch careers. I think going back to what I said when I talk about the whole switching to UX thing, typically 3 steps: learn, practice, and also networking. Learn is probably the easiest one because there are so many free resources. A lot of them are free as well. Practice can be hard or easy depending on what they're doing. If you're doing a design, you can probably design something yourself. If you are switching to PM, it's hard to be a PM just by yourself. And it's also hard to get feedback for what you're doing. If you don't have a mentor, if you don't have, if you're not working with other people, or you're just basically you do your thing, but you don't really know if this is the right thing to do. So I think practice in certain ways and also feedback is pretty hard. Another thing is networking. Obviously, again, just things are so much easier when you know the people. But when you don't know the people, everything is hard. So basically what I did also is, this is actually something that I want to solve as well, is try to find as many opportunities as possible to practice. That could be your personal project, that could be hackathons, that could be sandboxes that I'm trying to build, that could be conferences, student competitions, side projects, partnering with someone else. Try to find as many opportunities as possible. And also networking. So I think, now with everything online, it's actually easier to find an online community than it used to be in the past. Try to find those communities, try to do as many one-on-ones as possible. Try to find a mentor if you can. Have your friends introduce people in similar fields to you. So I guess 2 big things: practice, get feedback, network.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, guys, great questions. I think Bikram probably raised the hand next, and I'll pass as I'm looking at who is raising the hand. So Bikram, go.
Yep, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Bikram. So I actually have a question for Shunyao. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. I'm bad on pronouncing name. So thank you for the great story and for the great insight. So as you mentioned, while you switching your career, something new with no working experience, and there might be a lot of challenge, as Deepu already mentioned about it. So like, how did you motivate yourself doing with the new field? Because I'm doing full stack development training at Algorithm. I'm totally new with this one. So what I feel that I get motivated for 1 week or 2 week, and after that, kind of imposter syndrome happens, and I think that I don't know anything. There are so many great talents and great people who are competing for the same position. So how did you maintain that consistency on your hard work, your workflow?
First of all, CM, you should make your course more engaging.
Yeah, definitely.
Or make it easier.
We're hearing all this feedback, so definitely useful.
Motivation. I think this is very personal. For me, it always boils down to why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, if I want to go with one direction, then there's certain elements in that direction that's really attractive to me that I couldn't get from from where I am right now. I think find that thing for you. Basically, you want to have a life that 40 hours a week that you actually enjoy, rather than just like work for a paycheck. And to get there, you need to do A, B, and C. And maybe part of it is to, understand this full stack thing. I guess like that is something that you just like have to go through, but like think about your end goal. Like, why do you want to be there, and what kind of benefits will you get? And also for imposter syndromes, like I think someone said something that was really interesting to me was in some way, everyone is an imposter, because if you're trying to challenge yourself and do something that you've never done before, then you're an imposter. But if you always want to do the thing that you are comfortable with, you won't be an imposter, but also you won't get to the next stage. So it's a good thing that you're an imposter, because you're learning and growing.
Awesome. Thank you.
This is actually an incredible question, Bikram. Thank you for asking this. Actually, I have not. Sorry, I'm just kind of like in the move a little bit, but yeah. So great question, and like I agree with what Shunyao said, that you have to look at the end goal, and the few tricks I can also share on what worked on me, because I also kind of switched my career, is that so two strategies. One is that having some kind of like I mean, I don't know if this is the right word, but like micro achievement boost, or like micro dosing. I don't know what the right word is, but like whatever I'm doing, if I can just build something and share something every week or every 2 weeks, and share this with a small community where everyone is around. Bikram, you're already in algorithm, so you can use this community to share something you have learned and get feedbacks that will give you the dose you need to move. Because one thing is that we want to, let's say, for example, climb the Everest. It's a further goal, but in order to climb Everest, I have to do this lifting or something like this, running every week, and the running every week is the hard part. So for that, the best is to like create some kind of metric that, okay, this is my weekly goal I'm going to do, and then once I share, this has to be personalized, because you have to figure out what makes you personally like personally happy. That do you like sharing information with people? Do you like it when people appreciate your creativity? Do you appreciate it when you solve a problem? What makes you happy is a different answer for everyone. But whenever you have that answer, create that, like that's like a drug, that when you create that drug dose every week, that find the drug and create that dose every week. And it's a positive drug. So it's not like you're getting addicted to a negative thing, but that is something which will keep you like going. So yeah, that's the only strategy I wanted to kind of like share on the top of like having the goal of like going to Everest one day. So yeah, so I guess we can go to a few more hands raised. I don't know who raised when, but in my camera I'll go with the sequence. So maybe Ashraf, you wanted to ask some questions. I'll give it to you.
Thank you. My question is just to the point. Actually, I have graduated and I have different experiences. So the experience is diverse. It like from sales, marketing, management, power industry, etc. So now I am preparing full stack developer. So my question is that from the recruiter's point of view, how actually they look this one? I mean, since I'm changing my career, my educational also, it's not background computer science. So how to motivate themselves? I mean, how to sell myself while I'm changing my career and my background is still not in computer science?
Yeah, you don't sell while you change it, you sell what you can do, right? For me, I have 3 different resumes when I apply to different roles. My resume for a software engineer is very, very, very different from my resume for product management. You only put things that are relevant to the roles that you're applying to in your resume, and maybe that could be your side projects, could be your past experience. Just like, don't even think about like what you did in the past. I guess you could mention that, just like one line, that's it. But it's more about, can you do this new job and what can you prove?
Okay, thank you.
Great. I guess who else? I'm just looking at the camera. So Jonathan, I guess probably could go next. I have like probably a couple more hands raised, but thank you, Shunyao, actually for taking the time for answering all the questions one by one. Really appreciate it.
This is good.
I'm also learning a lot from all these questions and all these answers. So Jonathan, I think you raised the hand. I don't know what was the sequence, but you can go.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Shunyao, for having us. And my question is, okay, let me take it from what Bikram said. You look out there and think that, okay, you are just learning this new task and there are specialists out there. So it's like a very competitive environment you are into. So job search becomes a job. And for you to be successful in anything you're trying to do, you must design a strategy. My take is, for someone, if I'm focusing on like Google, for instance, what is your top 2 strategy you think, like as a job seeker, what approach should we have in place? As in trying to, okay, this is the best. Most time organizations, they have different way of recruiting, and your understanding of how they recruit and positioning yourself in the right place is also a factor that will add to your success in getting the job in that place, in that environment. So if I'm looking at Google, what do you think is the best strategy for one to put in place to get noticed and so that you can be heard and be considered? And also part of it kind of is to say, okay, how does Google go about their hunt for talents?
So let me repeat the question to make sure I understand it. Your question is, what's the best strategy to get into Google?
Yeah.
Like, are you talking about software engineering?
It could be software engineering, and presently now I'm training to be a full stack developer at algorithm. Yes, that's my focus, but it could be So I'm also trained as a business analyst. So whichever way comes in for me is fine.
Got it. So software engineer or
Yeah.
business analyst.
Yes.
Okay. Those two are very different, by the way. And can I ask which year are you in, if you're still in college?
Yeah, I'm in my last semester. I'll be graduating this fall.
Okay. Typically, I would say internships is probably the best one. Like return offers is way higher. The rate of return offers is way higher than like external hire. And I think there are certain what is called programs or hackathons or whatever you call this that Google hosts, and these type of events are designed specifically for recruiting. I forgot what it's called, but some code of Google or something. But basically, yeah, Google has all those like hackathons, and for developers try to design some open source things, or like basically there are like competitions that you can attend, and if you do a good job there, and that's like typically a really, really big plus for you to get into the pipeline. Yeah, I think that's one. I think recently Google also have like some learning course and certificates that they recognize that may be helpful. I don't really know too much about that. Other than that, I think like side projects that you can present that have solid numbers. If you say you designed so-and-so that was used by 10,000 people, and that's like, you know, really solid resume points. Yeah, basically, I guess like two paths. One is go with the Google recognized path. That's internships, that's competitions, hackathons that Google hosted, that's certification that Google offers. And the other path is on your resume have like a concrete like concrete metrics on like your impact. You designed this and this, and here's the impact. That would be my two suggestions.
All right, thank you very much.
Great. I think Kinjun, do you wanna go?
Yeah, thank you. So I had a quick question. Like, as you have a vast experience working in different team environment, both as an intern and in the end as a product manager. So what would you say are the top most soft skills to be a good team player? Like, to be a valuable team player and in a team, yeah.
So the question is, how important is it to be a team player?
Yeah, how important and what are the top soft skills you need to have to be a valuable team member to your team?
Yeah. What are the soft skills to be a team player? I mean, responsible. I think that's the very least. You promise you're going to do X and then you do X in time, right? I think giving the right credit is something I think is very important, as in, especially giving others credit. Like when someone did something and you like emphasize that in a team meeting, I think that will make a lot of people happy. I think I'll go back to communication again. Like there are so many times, so many times that you thought you're on the same page, but in the end you're doing totally different things. Like I wouldn't say that's like anyone's fault, but it would be very, very helpful if you can communicate clearly and you're all on the same page for something. Yeah, these are the three on top of my mind, but and there are so many other things that's important as well.
Thank you for your answer.
Yeah, very, very good questions. And like, I'm really enjoying Shunyao's cat also, who is joining the Zoom session with us. But yeah, just to add on that is that the communication, which kind of like helped me fundamentally, is to assume the best in people. Like always just assuming the best in people, and also like just verbally or writtenly communicate that, hey, like, is this what you meant? And like I think this is the hardest struggle on working in a team, is that everyone thinks in their own way, they have their own language, and you can say something and they will understand a completely different thing. And we had a handshake and we did completely two different things. It happens all the time. So the only way it can fix is to constantly like just like having a written conversation. I think like writing is one of the best things. Sometimes verbal conversations kind of like it's hard to structure it in a written format. Like, okay, this is what you meant, and the person said, oh, this is what I meant. It's easier to follow, at least for me. It has worked a lot. So yeah, I agree. This is a very, very important topic. No matter how much we discuss, it can like, yeah, very important topic, communication. I think Fairuz, you raised your hand, so do you wanna go?
Yes, I can go. So I had a question that, like you, I was also an undergrad in electrical engineering. Then I got into master's for a very specific line of electrical engineering, which is nanophotonics. And now I'm planning on to get into like full stack developer position. So like, did you face the problem, like, or any situation where you were asked, like, why did you change your focus from electrical engineering to UX developer? Or did you have to face this question, and how you managed it? And was it ever helpful, the electrical engineering, was it ever helpful for your, like, the position that you're doing right now?
I hardly remember anything from my undergrad, so but I think the engineering, that kind of analytical part, is always going to be helpful, no matter what. Questions of whether people ask you about why you switch. So if they ask you, that's a good thing, because I mean, hopefully you do have a story there, like, because like you didn't like the old thing and now you like the new thing. You can talk about why you like the new thing. You can talk about your exploration in the process. It's a good thing for you to share the story, to have the opportunity to talk about it. I do think people ask out of curiosity. I don't think it's like an evaluation though. But yeah, people ask you that question. I think, yeah, like usually I just think you do have a story there. Just talk about it. Don't stress too much about it.
Incredible point. Yeah, I actually never also thought that angle, that people ask out of like curiosity, not that they're like judging you or anything. Like they're like genuinely curious. Yeah, great point. So I think we had a good amount of Q&As, but I mean, does anyone else have anything? If not, we can probably slowly go towards wrapping. Aman, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a quick question. It's also related to career switch. Currently, so hi, my name is Aman. Thank you, Sunyu, for a wonderful session. I'm currently senior in Salem State to complete my bachelor's in computer science. I'm also expected to graduate by end of this fall. My quick question is regarding career change. How do you ask yourself internally in your mind that, like, other than the passion, right? You develop a passion for a new field, so you go towards this learning, like how and what are the skills that required. But like, other than the passion, what question do you ask yourself in the mind that makes you kind of, I don't know, helps you guide towards the career change?
Yeah, so there is a concept called Ikigai, or I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's a Japanese word. It's essentially there are 4 circles, and then the overlap of the 4 circles is called the Ikigai. And the 4 circles are what you're good at, what the world need, what people would pay for, and I think there's something else. There's another one that I forgot. But that's a good framework of when you think about what you do. Yeah, so what you're passionate about, what are you good at, what does the world need, and also what people would pay you for. Ideally, you'll find the thing that overlaps with everything. But even if you don't find it, even if it overlaps with 2 circles or 3 circles, I think that's great as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I think I am looking for some questions. So I think Asif Alam asked a question. I think his audio is probably not working, but I can ask the question. I'm curious to know what are some strategies to manage your finances during these career life transitions. Like you're still working part-time while learning, you are taking a loan, or how are you really navigating the finances during this transitioning phase? So this is a question from Asif.
Yeah, I imagine this is each person's situation is very different. So for me, I was doing the PhD. I was still in school, like for the first couple of transitions, and so basically PhD, they give you like a really small amount of salary to help you just pay rent and everything. So I was like working, spending a lot of time working for my advisor on research on video compression, but I also spent a lot of time learning and looking for internships and other things. So yeah, at some point I have to do 2 things at the same time, which I hate. But I think in the most recent pivot where I quitted Google and started to do my own startups. So right now I'm kind of like just in a gap and I don't have an income. And I think you kind of know how much saving you have and how much runway you have, and you kind of set that timeline for you. Basically for me, I think if in 6 months I still don't find a direction with the right traction that can give me income, maybe I will go find another job. So just like knowing what you have and how much risk you are willing to take, and you can decide, do you want to work double shifts, or do you just want to full-time working on something new?
Yeah, great question, and thank you for sharing that. Also, like the personal details, Shunyao. I can share just like a quick one for me as well. So when I finished my master's, I had my first transition from electrical engineering to software development. So I had $3,000, and so that wasn't a lot of money. And essentially, I kind of like decided to live off of that few, just for I think like probably 3 months or something of runway, and I moved from Houston to New York with that amount of money in my pocket that I'll like really be scrappy and just somehow survive. And obviously it did not work well. After 3 months, I had to go through a really tough phase of working in gas stations and all these odd jobs. So I took a little bit higher, like a bigger risk in my early stage, but as Shunyao said, that it's person to person varies, and it also varies on the stage of your career. Maybe if you are just fresh graduate, it's a little bit harder to have that kind of money. But later, I also did that I worked more as a product manager for like around 6 to 7 years, and then I decided to quit. Then I already had a bigger runway. Then it was like a little bit like I had more breathing space that, okay, now I can not figure out my revenue source for next 2 years and still probably be okay. Although I will be cautious if I'm not able to do something within 2 years. That's a different thing. So, so yeah, very, very interesting question. And yeah.
And if I can just add to that, so it's
Mhm.
not like, obviously your savings goes up as you work longer, but your risk also goes up as you work longer. You might have mortgage, you might have kids, you might have be in a relationship and all these other things. So I mean, I always say if you need to take risk, usually when you're younger is better.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think we can probably slowly come to the close of the session if we don't have much any more questions. Does anyone have any more questions? Or oh, there are still some questions. We will be wrapping it up in 5 minutes, so we can probably like take 1 or 2 questions and then we'll slowly wrap up. So Albish, do you wanna go ask your question?
Hello, it was really nice hearing about your career journey. So now I have a quick question, and like we are all searching for our first job or something like that right now. But so my question is, why did you quit your job and like start something on your own? Like, did you not enjoy working on a good company, like a big company like Google? Well, what made you do that? That was my question.
Yeah, definitely took a lot of thinking. So Google is good. I would still recommend people to go there, especially for new grad. Really good place, learn a lot, tons of resources, really good on your resume. So yeah, good place to be. I think for me, it wasn't that much about Google. It was more about there are things that I want to do that I couldn't do in other companies. So before I quit my job, I did spend a little bit of time just like looking for other jobs. And then very soon I realized there's not a job that I really want to work in. And there's this other thing that I really want to do. And I don't like doing 2 things at the same time. And I'm at a position that I think I can quit for and live okay for like 6 months to a year. So that's how I make the decision. So yeah, so for me, it was more about there's something else I want to do rather than Google is bad.
Thank you. And I have one more question. So you said you're currently working on Sandbox. Could you like explain a little bit what you're working on right now?
Yeah, so it's called Jobs in the Sandbox. Let me see if I can find a link somewhere. It's specifically about product management right now, so it may or may not be relevant to you. But essentially for people who are interested in a new job, we want to create these sandbox experience, 2 hours, 2 days for you to get experience to act as that person, in this case, act as a PM and try to, number one, get a sense of what it's like to be a PM, and number 2, try to practice that particular skill and get feedback. So again, so far it's only for PMs, but we do intend to open this up to like engineers, to designers, to other tech related jobs.
Yeah, that's a really cool concept. I really like it. Did you come up with the idea yourself, or are you working with somebody else also?
Yeah, I'm working with another person on this. We kind of went back and forth on this for a long time. So yeah, that's the current idea. We'll see if this works out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think there are a few more questions. I do want to be mindful for Shunyao's time. Shunyao, how long do you have? Just wanted to make sure that we're not like going too longer than we could. Okay, we can maybe, so I think the people who raised their hands, so Anmo, Mansoor, and Aman, feel free to go. Yeah, we'll wrap up maybe in 5 minutes or so. Yeah.
Mind if I go first? Shunyao, thanks for the talk and all. Loving the answers. I just wanted to ask. You said you had like a 6 to 12 month, I think, runway ahead of you. Like, how do you? I don't want to ask like what were your backup plans or anything like that. I just wanted to know like the thought process of making your backup plans. You could. I hope. Do you understand that? Like, I'm not asking you like what were your backup plans exactly, but rather the backup plans that you came up with. How do you come up with those?
I mean, the backup plan is to find a job. It's very simple. I mean, is there like a deeper question behind it? Like, why do you think it's hard to come up with a backup plan?
Like, I just wanted to know like your judgment process itself rather than the backup plan itself.
Yeah, I mean, how do I come up with a backup plan? I mean, how do you come up with any plans? Like, I think it's just like literally you have certain costs every month, and ideally you want to reach a point where your income and cost reach a balance, right? Now, like, how much savings do you have, and how long can that saving last based on your cost? And if you can have an income of like $10,000 a year, what does that mean? If you can have an income of $20,000 a year, what does that mean? So like basically do the math and try to figure out how much money you need and try to get that money. Either it's getting a job, either it's drive Uber. I don't know. So yeah, it's like a math, right? I don't know if that answers your question.
I mean, yeah, helps. Thanks.
Maybe it didn't.
I think this is a longer. I think like it probably is a longer, like it probably requires a much longer. Like this is a much longer question where every person has a different decision-making process. I think, yeah, I don't think it can be actually finished in a quick Q&A kind of thing. Like if you want to understand how Shunyao thinks and how she decides in her life, that is a massive, you have to understand her entire brain's operating system, that everyone has a different priority, everyone has a different risk-taking capacity. People decide based on all these parameters, I mean, that's what I can understand. Every person is different. But yeah, very, very interesting question, Mansoor. But I guess like, yeah, it's probably will vary very much person to person. So I think, Anmo, you had a question. Did you raise your hand or was it a new raise? Okay.
I did. Hi, I just want to, so being a product manager, there will be like so many multiple tasks that you have to face. I just want to know, like, how do you prioritize the task and how you handle situations?
Yeah. How do I prioritize the task for myself, or how do I prioritize the task for the team?
I think both. I think both. Yeah, both would be helpful.
Yeah, I think those are two very different answers. For the team, it's very obvious, not obvious, but for the team, it's like you have a high level business goal. If your goal is to, grow, double your users. If your goal is to increase your double your revenue, so you have a very high level business goal, and then you want to understand the cost and impact of everything that you're doing. And obviously you want to maximize the impact and minimize the cost. So that's usually a prioritization framework. For myself, I think this is also a really good question. What I usually do is each week, I'm thinking about what are the most important things that I need to do this week. And I try to put it on my calendar to make sure that I have time for that. And then what are maybe the next 2 to 3 things that are also important, but maybe not super urgent. And I also listed that and tried to maybe do one of them every day. So I think it's just like, make sure you know what's the most important thing and don't be distracted by responding emails, getting a dentist appointment. I mean, that's also important, but yeah.
If that may help. Thank you very much.
Yeah, guys, thanks a lot for these awesome questions. And I personally also learned a lot. And yeah, Shunyao, this has been a great session, like awesome to have you here and like just listen to you. I guess my only question would be like, I mean, do you have any kind of like parting advice? Then I mean, you have been advising for a good amount of time, but do you have anything? And what are the best ways to stay in touch with you if the student wants to just, you know, like reach out and stay in touch with you somehow? Hey, I think you are mute.
Oh,
Probably.
sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, let's do LinkedIn. And I just send the link. I don't know. Parting advice is life is short. Do the thing you love. And a lot of things that you're worried about right now, that's like so important right now, will not be important in 2 years. So don't be too stressed about whatever that you're stressed about.
Awesome. Shunyao, this has been amazing. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I mean, hopefully our students, like, guys, if you guys want to provide some feedback, we want to keep bringing more you know, like speakers who are who wants to help the foreign born community. And Shunyao, as I said, like Shunyao's story, I found her very fascinating. Check out her you know, like this job in a sandbox thing. I think that will be like a really cool thing. And yeah, I mean, Shunyao, thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, CM, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.